In today's world, we are increasingly dependent on technology. Our business and personal lives rely on it, but as you've probably noticed, it's unreliable. They promise it'll get better, but it usually gets worse. Our computers are slow, so we end up squinting at smartphones and tablets. We live in constant fear that something's going to happen to our personal data, so we're scared into paying for fake protection that proves useless when disaster strikes. Update attacks, fake Wi-Fi, cloud control, and other industry scandals are designed to keep the money flowing. The jokers we pay to fix our stuff have no clue what they're doing, so they do a virus scan and then wipe out our precious photos. Intelligent, successful people feel intimidated by the chaos and think it's somehow their fault. If they only knew what the industry was doing to them, they'd get torches and pitchforks. If only we had someone to explain it all in plain English so we can start protecting ourselves. Oh wait, we do! It's the Computer Exorcist Podcast with your host, Mark Anthony Arena.
From the Wallace Memorial microphone in my home office, overlooking the Can of Worms in downtown Rochester, New York, this is the Computer Exorcist Podcast with me, your host, Mark Anthony Arena. I don't know if I've ever explained this, but I haven't done it recently anyway. The Can of Worms is an area native to Rochester where all of our highways meet. We have 490 and 590, and 390 doesn't really touch the Can of Worms, but it connects to it. And we've got a train line going through there. We got all sorts of stuff going on. So back in the probably 70s or 80s, I grew up here in the 80s, and I remember the name being widely used. It was called the Can of Worms because it looks like someone dumped out a can of worms and spilled the worms all over the earth. And here we are. So all of the highways weave themselves together, and I'm kind of sort of near there, so that is the landmark I use to describe where I am and what I am overlooking whilst I do this show. Welcome to any new people out there. I'm so proud to announce that we have surpassed 4,000 downloads. That is since my podcast began in the beginning of 2023, so it's about a year and a half now, and already I've had 4,000 total downloads. That's just number of times someone downloaded any episode. So I am grateful and flattered and honored that you are apparently enjoying my show, and I thank you in advance for sharing this show with people who are intelligent, successful people who are just intimidated by technology and want to learn what it's all about in plain English. So yeah, we have surpassed 4,000 downloads. We're on our way to 4,100 this week. So that is just so cool. Meanwhile, I'm still very behind in my briefcase full of articles, and I've got a lot of stuff to talk about. This week, actually, Microsoft was caught red-handed with one of their attacks, right? I'm the only guy in the industry who realizes that updates are actually attacks. So I call them update attacks. So this week, this is June of 2024, Microsoft was caught red-handed. They attacked people a few weeks ago with the Copilot AI attack, where they force attacked an AI assistant into every copy of Windows 10 and 11 on the planet. And so I've been going around ripping it out wherever I can and protecting those machines from future attacks. But if an annoying AI assistant wasn't bad enough, they attacked it with a new add-on called Recall. Oh, wouldn't it be nice and convenient for you if you could just ask your computer what you've been saying when you've been talking to yourself walking around your house? And so they always dangle a little bit of convenience, but by the way, yeah, we're recording everything you say, and it's actually for our knowledge. And people just fall for it, hook, line, and sinker, right? Oh, I want convenience. I don't care that they're also recording me. I don't have anything to hide. Okay, but it gets worse. This recall attack was turned on by default without anybody's knowledge. So it's, hey, we're going to record everything you say in your house without asking you. Okay? Why hasn't anyone sued this organization and obliterated them and sued them out of business yet? Why hasn't that happened? Microsoft needs to go out of business immediately. That is my professional opinion. So that's the latest news that I just had to talk about. And there are plenty of articles. I'll talk about it in the future. But for now, we're going to get back to our backlog of articles, because I believe that they are still important to be discussed. And I always say this. These concepts are eternal, right? The examples change every week. The examples of malice and treachery and intrusion that big tech does to you, these examples change by the week, but the concept is still the same. They are still arrogant, malicious people, and these companies need to be held accountable in some way. Obviously, laws don't work, because the more laws we make, the more it actually solidifies them in their position and adds more barriers to entry for competitors. So they need to be held accountable by simply raising awareness. This is what I do on this show, and this is what I ask you to help me out with. Tell your friends. Microsoft is recording everything you say without your knowledge with the latest recall, which is an attack. It's a recall service that they created and attacked people with it without their permission or knowledge. Okay, article time. AutoWeek.com, November 2021. Tesla app outage is a wake-up call for automakers. A server connection outage locked some Tesla owners out of their cars, but there's a greater issue looming. All right, again, I mean, people just think, oh, convenience. Wow, there's an app for my car. But people don't understand how apps work. They don't understand that an app is controlled by a central server. So your functionality depends on your connection to the central server and the health of the central server, okay, and the security of the central server, by the way. Rumor has it that this outage was caused because of Microsoft Azure cloud server. So some pea-brain at Tesla trusted Microsoft with a cloud server, which means very little security, okay. A Tesla mobile app that allows owners to enter and start their cars suffered an outage. The outage affected owners on several continents for several hours. The app allows owners to open and start the vehicles, as well as the summon function, which is, of course, bells and whistles, right? You press a button and your car will actually start and drive toward you. So, I mean, that's crazy. It's like a built-in valet, right? Your car's in a parking lot, you walk out of the mall and it's raining and you don't want to walk through the parking lot, so you press summon and the car finds you and comes toward you, right? And that's what Tesla is all about, right? That fancy, show-offy, gimmicky stuff, right? You can use your Tesla app to remotely start your car if you lose all of your key fobs and key cards, the automaker says, okay? So they are telling you that it's only meant as a party trick and it's not meant to be your main key, okay? And that's smart, right? They're saying it, right? They're saying, look, this is a cloud service. That's kind of implied that they're implying that cloud services are garbage and should never be trusted. So they're saying, look, it's a great supplement, right? Let's say you want to lend someone your car, give your kid your car for the day, you give them the app or something, but it shouldn't be your primary way to get in. Even then, right, no matter who drives your car, the app still shouldn't be the primary way to get in. It should be a cool thing that you use to walk up to your car, but you should always keep the key in your pocket just in case, right? Just like how a lot of these keys, now they'll call it an emergency blade. And if you notice on your key fob nowadays, even though there's not a metal key sticking out of it, if you press a button, you can actually reveal the metal key in case you need to unlock your car in an emergency. Well, it's similar to that, but it's a little weirder. Okay, so you can use your app day to day as long as you keep the key card in your pocket. And the key card, it's still garbage computers. It's still a garbage computer chip inside of a card. So it's a lot less reliable than a metal key, right? Heaven help you if you fall into a pool. I remember when I was growing up, my high school buddy said his mom fell into a pool, and she had a Subaru and it had a real key, but the remote was soaked, and the remote disabled the alarm. So, yeah, her key was physically intact, but the remote was roasted, and she could not disable the car alarm, so it just went off forever and ever, and she could never get in the car and start it up. So reliance on electronics is always a bad thing. Anyway, but at least you should have the key card in your pocket for your Tesla, because the key card is a computer chip that directly talks to the car. So even if the cloud is out and the cloud servers are gone, and if they're Microsoft servers, then they were hacked into oblivion, then you can still get into your car, okay, if the cloud service is unavailable. So, back to the article. They say, however, what had been advertised as a contingency option, right? The app is a contingency option in the event of lost keys or key cards, may have become the primary mode for accessing the car for a percentage of owners, right? It's their fault for trusting the cloud. They were using the app primarily to get into their car. Oh, I'm just going to trust an app, right? Woe to you who trust an app. No, you keep the key card in your pocket because that is more reliable. It's the only thing that'll work in the event of a cloud outage. Okay? It does point to an industry-wide issue that is expected to grow in the coming years, right? Because it's going to grow because of what I call management by magazine article, where you have a pea-brain manager who just reads an article that says, I heard we should start using apps to get into our cars. And they don't realize that cloud apps are totally unreliable. So they just start making declarations. Oh, my company should start using apps because I heard apps were good. So a lot of this garbage is going to happen because we have Emperor's new clothes, as it were. I call it Emperor's new phone, where we're dazzled by all this stuff, but it's actually garbage. It's naked garbage. So this issue is expected to grow in the coming years. Loss of certain vehicle functions due to glitches in connectivity or other software problems. Well said. The issue is the possibility of a sudden loss of features that could be dependent on your data connection, as a number of automakers are mulling introducing features that, again, what did I say? Pea-brain managers who, I heard this is good, so I think we should do this. So, and including features that you can subscribe to, which is another mess, and including autonomous driving, which is yet another mess. It's not too difficult to imagine a loss of telemetry from dozens of robo-taxis in the not-too-distant future, right? They'll all just start banging into each other, right? And look, if you are going to do self-driving cars, you should do what's known as vehicle-to-vehicle, where the cars talk to each other. Ham radio people call this in the wilderness, right? Where the cars talk to each other fully independent of any central controller. Unfortunately, this industry is falling head over heels for the false promise here of central controllers. And, we have to have central controllers everywhere. So guess what? Every 12 seconds when those central controllers go down, your robo-taxis are going to smash into each other if they don't know how to fend for themselves in the wild. It's just like parenting, huh? I imagine that some new cars will just come with just an app and no key card, right? Oh, yeah, I heard apps are good, so we shouldn't bother. Let's save 5 cents and we won't bother giving people a key card, right? That'll be tomorrow. I bet you anything GM tomorrow morning will say, yeah, you don't even need a key. Let's just do an app. Yeah, that'll be fine. Right? And then 12 seconds later, oh, sorry, that app isn't supported anymore, because people don't understand that all apps are controlled by the Apple or Google duopoly, right? It's not just a thing that you have. An app means putting your life in the hands of Apple and Google, two very whimsical, very authoritarian, very capricious, brutal, dictatorial organizations, okay? And every 12 seconds, they just deem your phone unworthy because, you didn't do the latest update. So your phone might get viruses, therefore we're not allowing you on there anymore. Right? They know that people don't realize viruses can't happen anymore, so they just use that as an excuse. You're going to get viruses. Just like the HP cartridge scandal, right? They just use that universal excuse, you're going to get viruses, to get away with whatever they want in the name of protecting you. So that's what'll happen is, oh, wait a minute, this is no longer supported, right? Just like now, people call me up and they bought a new printer. They can't use the new printer with their old computer because, oh, it's not supported. It's the treadmill scandal. Now you have to you got a new printer. Now you got to put the computer in the garbage and buy a new computer. Oh, you got to put the computer in the garbage and buy new socks and underwear. Oh, you got to put those in the garbage and buy a new desk. It's all an evil scheme to make you buy things. So I predict that'll happen with cars, where, oh, your app won't work with your phone anymore, and that app won't work with your car anymore, so you have to put your car in the garbage. Even though it's only a year old, put it in the crusher. Right? It's a technocrat's ultimate dream. So you think it can't happen? It's already happening, right? I always say this all the time. Computer guys love deprecating things, which means dooming them and saying, sorry, too bad, you're not allowed to use them. This happened as early as a few years ago in Italy, where you are not allowed to sell a used car anymore if it is an evil fossil fuel burning car. You have to put the car in the garbage. You are not allowed to transfer ownership of that car, right? So it's these evil external mechanisms that are put in place in order to crush you, in order to doom you. Okay, next one. All right, this is another I told you so or I predicted it article. This is a humongous scandal that nobody is aware of. Right? Everything I do on the show, I talk about things that nobody is aware of, right? There's a handful of people that are trying to concentrate power in their hands. And since the media doesn't know about it because they've never heard of computers before, or they were told not to talk about it, or they think it's a good thing, we aren't hearing about this. So it's my job here to expose these scandals. This is a fairly recent one, October 2023, Electrical Contractor Magazine. You might not realize it, but the next time you shop for a new refrigerator or water heater, you might also be investing in a new power plant. It turns out the smart Wi-Fi connections in new appliances can offer more than status alerts and remote monitoring capabilities. Yeah, much more than they want you to realize. Okay. Such app-based controls also provide new options for engaging with coordinated efforts to address electricity supply and demand concerns. Oh, how sweet. All right, look, so two things here. Number one, just like we just talked about a few minutes ago, these appliances are controlled by an evil app, and 12 minutes from now, that evil app will no longer be supported, which means you're not allowed to use that appliance anymore. Oh, great. Put it in the garbage and buy another one, right? The older they are, the longer they last, right? The 50-year-old fridges are still going and the 30-year-old dishwashers are still going, but the new stuff lasts shorter and shorter and shorter amount of time, okay? The new appliances you buy, anything that says smart or Wi-Fi, will physically corrupt itself after a year or two because it has evil computer chips in it that'll break, or it will be forced to stop working. It's what I call forced obsolescence, where, sorry, too bad, that app is no longer supported, also known as allowed. And sorry, too bad, you'll get viruses, so you're not allowed to use this for your own protection. Put that appliance in the garbage. Oh, yeah, and I'll gladly sell you a new one, okay? So that's the first part. The second part here, did you catch what's going on here, folks? They call it virtual power plant, okay? And it's kind of a neat concept in and of itself, where, yeah, your appliances aren't generating power, but they can be tapped into by your power company to stop functioning, which will then create an artificial surplus of electricity, okay? So that's like saying, you know what, there's starving people in the world, so I'm going to walk up to you and rip that hamburger out of your hands, and so that you aren't consuming it, and I'll give it to someone else. Okay, again, virtual power plant. It means it's not that your appliances are generating power, it's they're stealing the power away from you to give it to somebody else. So you are no longer drawing from the grid. So in theory, you become a virtual power plant. Does that make sense, folks? Do you see how evil this is? Have you listened to my show? I was on radio, on AM/FM radio, from 2012 to 2022, and I've been on this podcast ever since that time. What did I say when they dangled $1 in front of you and said, you need a Nest, you need a Google Nest thermostat because Wi-Fi equals convenience? And they dangled a little $1 gift card or a $5 gift card in front of you. Guess what? I said it then, and now it's happening. They now control your thermostat, so your house is a virtual power plant. In other words, when we have demand elsewhere because of all these electric cars, instead of us generating more electricity, we're going to take it away from you. And we're going to tell you that you can't heat your house right now because someone else needs that power. If anyone doesn't realize this is dictatorial, hello. Oh, let's just keep talking about our politicians being dictators. But in reality, these quiet people are doing this without your knowledge. Does that make sense, folks? All right, I'm going to try to read this here, and I'm going to try to keep quiet and just read it for you, okay? And these electrical contractors, by the way, they're caught in the middle, right? This article talks about how beautiful and wonderful it is and how it's our job to facilitate all of this flow of data. But look, and I talk to people all the time. It's like, well, I work for the man, but I just have to do it for a paycheck. No, you can find a way to fight the man and make more money. That's what I do. I'm on Reddit all the time, and I'm in these job forums where people say, oh, yeah, well, I work for the man, but I don't like my job, and I don't even make enough to live. Well, come join me. Help dismantle this cloud and liberate people. They're willing to pay for that. All right. Maintaining smooth grid operations is a constant dance between supply and demand. Power quality problems and even system shutdowns can occur if either factor falls out of balance, okay, right? And we're already 104% overloaded in the power grid. I'm a fan of electric cars, but we're not going to be able to provide for electricity for these cars if we're already overloaded. Right? So they have to do something here, so they're just stealing power from you and me. Look, I'm cold all the time. I live in this Arctic climate called Rochester. I'm freezing now. It's the middle of summer, and it's 58 yesterday, and I'm a skinny guy. I'm cold. I'm shivering. All right, anyway. As utility planners seek to balance electricity supply and demand, they're turning to innovative options that call on customers' equipment during high-demand periods. Yeah, call on customers' equipment, right? In other words, tell your equipment to stop working because someone else needs it. We're incorporating AI, machine learning, and cloud connectivity built into today's appliances. They also could help support the current push to electrify everything from cooking to transportation, and new options for controlling the demand side. New options for controlling the demand side. In other words, controlling those who are demanding the power. In other words, controlling the consumer. In other words, controlling you. Okay? That little piece was my comment there. Right? It's control and complexity. It's the mark of the beast, and you're seeing it overflow everywhere. You gotta start noticing, you gotta start telling people before it's too late. Don't buy appliances that feature Wi-Fi control. It's a scam. They are dangling some convenience in front of you so they can control you. Tell your friends. And if you have to buy an appliance with one, make sure it is not connected to the internet, and warn the appliance installers of this scandal. Marketers use the phrase virtual power plants. Oh yeah, sure. Marketers came up with it. That makes sense now. To describe these new incentive offerings because they can come into service and direct operational control. To encourage participating customers to dial back their temperature settings and reduce overall electrical use. What have I been saying? They never mentioned it in the beginning, and then like a year or two ago they said, oh, we'll lower your temperature, but it'll be just a few degrees, don't worry. just a few degrees. I can't remember who told me this, but in the Vietnamese prisons during the Vietnam War, they would come in, I believe it was during that war, they would come in and they would ask the prisoners of war to perform simple, mundane tasks in order to earn their trust. Oh, okay, you're just making me close the door and tie my shoes or something? Okay. And then they ask them for more and more and more and more things until eventually they enslave them. That's called human nature. It doesn't matter where and when it happens. California proved virtual power plant effectiveness during heat waves several times over the summer of 2022. Tesla and energy services company STEM were able to call on their customers' battery systems during demand events. Oh, great. So now you're putting wear and tear on my car battery without my knowledge and permission? Connect says its participating customers were able to reduce the demand by 2.5 gigawatt hours, right? So again, they're not generating power. They're giving up the power that they wanted to use. So they were reducing their own demand over the summer of 2022 by setting back their thermostats and other appliances when notified during peak demand. We are woefully behind where we need to be, says Connect's CEO, who noted his company has become predictable and reliable enough to be licensed as a power provider. What a lie. You're not providing power. You're taking it from other people. Look, I'm all for encouraging people to stop wasting. Believe me, okay? When I was in college, my roommates and I had this huge old-fashioned TV. And what do they call those? Radiation King was the nickname, right? And it sucked a lot of power. And my guys, they would just leave the TV on all the time, and they would forget it on all the time. Look, I'm all in favor of that, but this all comes down to a very deep philosophical concept, and I'm writing this in my next book. Are you going to govern yourself, or are you going to have a central authority control how hot your house is? Okay? Are you going to govern yourself and eliminate waste yourself? Nobody's saying that waste is good. I'm just saying, do you want to regulate your own waste? Or do you want someone else like Connect to do it? These programs often only kicked in during 2 or 3 power emergencies per year, but we dispatch all the time, he said. The relationship Connect has with its participants allows them to opt out of any request. All right, so there you go. So we're going to do it unless you opt out, right? That's a big concept in the computer industry, opt in or opt out. Okay, opt in means you choose to participate. Opt out means you're automatically enrolled and you have to pull yourself out of something that you don't want to be involved in, okay? So you're doing the work. Oh, they allow them to opt out. And instead, they're incentivized through cash payments and gift cards and other benefits. Keep dangling the pennies. Keep dangling the pennies and watch these fish bite the hook. You know, if I were evil, I would go out there and dangle pennies in front of people. And I would win people over and I would crush and enslave them. That's what big tech is doing. Technology used to be fun. I used to have fun with this stuff. Until someone showed up and ruined the fun. Until greedy people showed up and learned how profitable in the short term. How short-term profitable it was. Significant financial benefits from broader use of virtual power plants. Smart thermostats and water heaters, managed electric vehicle charging, and behind-the-meter battery storage. Okay. Connect has begun working with appliance makers such as Carrier and Google Nest to allow it to directly control your connected devices without customers having to set back the devices themselves. Yeah, they don't have to do anything now. For a seamless, integrated experience. Look, folks, if you don't know what to do with your life and you're looking for something to do with your life, come join me and help me slow down this trickle of money and power towards Silicon Valley. Final article. Where'd the other article go anyway? There it is. Free Software Foundation. This is the fall 2023 bulletin. And Free Software Foundation is a group of people who are all about freedom in software, right? As opposed to this unilateral centralized control and the closed source Microsoft and Apple stuff that's out there. So it's an awesome organization that raises awareness. I'm hoping that regular people read these newsletters instead of just an echo chamber for nerds who already know this stuff. So that's why I want to talk to you guys about it, because I want to talk to you guys about them and raise some awareness among normal human beings, because that's the only way we're going to make any change here and raise some awareness. So one article says, we stand firm in our resolve for freedom. Led by farmers advocating for the right to repair their John Deere tractors, right? We've talked about right to repair. The right to repair movement has been gaining momentum for more than a decade. The repairability of mobile phones and computers is fiercely defended by organizations like iFixit. Years ago, I worked for a company that was friends with them. That was cool. The right to repair movement is one of the most successful movements of digital autonomy. I like that term. In today's life, appliances and other personal technology are accelerating their pace in a transition from being purely mechanical to reliant on software. Well, hey, look, you better take a look at these evil Wi-Fi controls in our appliances, huh? Hey, Free Software Foundation, you might want to talk about that. We want all computer users to be able to do everything they need to on any computer using only free software, okay? And freedom will encourage the control users have over their technologies. It will take away unjust power from technology corporations in an increasingly digital world. Free software becomes increasingly essential, right? We've taken a lot of criticism for being absolutists and inflexible and uncompromising and self-righteous, and some even less elegant words. But demanding freedom is what led us to the popularity that they have, okay? And I've got something to say on that, so we'll get to that in a second. But next article says, is it possible to buy a house in freedom? Recently, I've been trying to purchase a house, and I wanted to test how difficult it was to purchase a home without using any non-free or closed software. Well, there's non-free JavaScript, and your real estate agent and your lender and your seller will likely not be as vigilant in avoiding proprietary web apps like JavaScript. So look, I'll get to that in a second, okay? So basically, they were trying to buy a house using the web, and the author was trying to do it without using any form of closed software, okay? And look, pick your battles, okay? Most of those realtors are out there using Microsoft Outlook, all right? So you're worried about nitpicking about some needles and pins and splitting hairs and however you want to say it. Meanwhile, the realtors are out there with the most glaring form of security hole ever created, Microsoft Outlook. So I would recommend you talk to your realtor about that first before you talk about nitpicking and little tiny microscopic issues with the website. Because guess what? That's going to turn those folks off, all right? A lot of these realtors are just marketing bobbleheads, and they don't know anything about computers. And if you start talking to them, their eyes glaze over. And I don't know what a computer. What? What's a computer? What? I don't know anything about computers, and that's hard and scary. And then they shut down, right? So start with the big stuff, okay? That's really, that's really my opinion on those first two articles in this newsletter. Is look, folks, start with the big stuff. And yeah, I know our goal is to have 100% open source software everywhere, but if you become a nitpicky person and you start criticizing people, they turn off. I've been there because I used to do it. Now I walk in and I have a lot greater success when I walk in and I give them the general concepts. All right, this is bad, here's how we're going to fix it. Instead of me going through a litany of 100 points of inspection and micro-criticizing everything as it were. So that's my deal there, is don't nitpick. Let's focus on the big stuff first. Focus on the fact that people are still infected with the Microsoft Outlook product. I had some clients who were realtors, and they were infected with Outlook, and of course it was hacked every day. So as soon as I protected them from it and got them onto something safe, I also liberated them from GoDaddy, which has absolute zero security. Once I did that, they just never have a problem ever again, and they just don't need me again. Okay, and they're telling all their friends. So focus on the big stuff first. The low-hanging fruit, the 80-20 rule, any way you want to say it. They taught me that in management school. Focus on the big stuff. The rest comes later. All right, because once you win people over with the low-hanging fruit, oh, wow, I stopped using Outlook, and now I never have a problem ever again. This guy knows what he's talking about. Then they'll come to you for the rest. Okay, and JavaScript, in my opinion, I mean, it ain't that bad. It's just a web technology. Sure, it's got its flaws, but the point is you're using a website. You're not... So you can use that website on any computer in the world. You can use a Linux computer. You can use anything. It's not like they're excluding you. Now, if the realtor said you have to download an app, then you've got a problem, because then you're involved in the Apple-Google duopoly, like I said a little while ago. All right, final article from this Free Software Foundation bulletin. Free software, an investment in human potential. Lately, there's been a lot of news that highlights the achievement of machines, the latest machine learning innovations, and the substantial investments being made. Parentheses, investments being made by sports bros who have no clue what they're investing in and just I heard AI was good, and I heard it was magical, and I don't know what it is. There's much speculation over the potential of these machines, what they can do, and they can learn. There's something unsettling about the fervor we're experiencing today. Right, I call it the AI bandwagon, or the knee-jerk reaction, or the sports bros. Let's take a moment to examine what seems to be a dangerous trend toward investment in machine learning over human potential. This is brilliant, right? I always say the mind of man is holy, so I wonder if this author knows that quote. The free software movement has always been about human potential. It ultimately protects and expands human potential. When we lack computational freedom, we lack important access we need to unlock our potential. Proprietary software, on the other hand, locks people out of their potential by denying them freedoms. Source code is hoarded away along with the potential to study or modify it for no one but the developer to see. Developers are tasked to design methods of restricting ways in which that software is used, right? So if you source a piece of software, if you create a piece of software and then lock it so no one can see it, you then have to implement methods to restrict people, just like the DRM scandal. It's exerting effort to restrict people. It's just like a lie, right? You ever watch Seinfeld or Frasier, where those are comedic examples of lying, but there are plenty of situations where you create one lie and then you have to do a myriad of lies to cover it up, right? That's exactly what closed source software is like. I mean, it's an analogy, but you get the point here. You do one thing and then you have to create tons of fences around it to protect it. Creating a proprietary license typically requires you to spend resources and hire a lawyer to have a license agreement, and DRM requires a team of developers, investing in a consequential negative impact, right? To harm your users is what that's my take on it. You're investing your energy to harm your users. Where free software offers benefits that proprietary software never can. Future generations will be able to freely study and improve on this software because it'll be opened, right? And make historical preservation possible. By the way, to Microsoft's credit, they did open source. They did open the source code. I believe it was for Microsoft Windows 3.0, which is a very old version of it from the early 80s. So that was kind of cool, right? But I get their point here is that this stuff needs to be opened. All right. So Free Software Foundation, look them up. Again, my argument toward them is don't be so nitpicky. Focus on the glaring issues here. I mean, we've still got people using Microsoft Windows and Microsoft Edge, which are perfectly legally sanctioned pieces of spyware, where Microsoft is like the warlord, where they're saying, look, we'll protect you, but that we're going to give ourselves full access to anything we want among our people. So Microsoft will record everything you do. Yeah. And like we talked about with that recall attack, where they just started recording everyone, and too bad for you. That stuff wouldn't be possible in the free and open source world because people would notice it, right? But that's why Microsoft and Apple keep their software closed. So you have no idea the ingredients they're putting into their products, right? Why would you go to a restaurant where the chef refuses to tell you what's in the food because he's obviously trying to poison you. So, come join the fight. Tell anyone you know about the appliances, and if anyone you know doesn't know what to do with their life, have them talk to me. thecomputerexorcist.com or becomeanexorcist.com. Join the fight to stop the trickle of money and power towards Silicon Valley. That's going to be my new slogan for a while. Mark Anthony Arena here. Thanks so much for joining me. Talk to you next week.
It's all right now. Make it on my own. I paid my time and my dues, and now I'm coming home. First they give you an inch, and then they take